Hey guys, Shay here from Full on a Journey. If you are like me and are seeing everyone's incredible, amazing videos with the spread machine oracle that was released recently by Fables, you're super jealous that you do not currently have this deck right now. And maybe it's possible that you are in the current situation that I am in, which is that now is a very bad time for me to be spending a whole lot of money on tarot decks. And so I just sort of wanted to show you a creative way to use some oracle decks that you already have to do something vaguely similar. I am in no way trying to say that you do not need her deck. If you are in the position to get it, go for it. I just think that this works really well. I am not going to claim to have entirely invented this idea. I remember way back when I very first started YouTube. My very first video was a tarot tag, and Arwen Lynch, who is also on YouTube, I'm going to link all of the people that I mentioned down below, did a video where she mentioned in her little tarot tag that sometimes when she doesn't have a spread or she doesn't really have a question, she would pull an oracle card to prompt a question, and then she would do the tarot reading to answer that question. And I thought, that is brilliant. I love it. And I have been doing that, with just like one card. Well, then I got really jealous of this spread machine oracle that was so beautiful, so gorgeous, and people were doing these really cool spreads with it. And I was like, I think I can do that. Because why, right? That's the next question. Why do you want to do this? So if you have no real question and you're just throwing out tarot cards, vague questions give vague answers, right? So it just sort of helps direct your reading and make it more clear. I still don't always use a spread. I still don't always have a question. A 9-card block, right? This is just a 3x3, is still my favorite for when I don't have a question and I just kind of want to see what's the weather today kind of thing. Definitely not saying I don't do that anymore, but just that sometimes you want something a bit more clear, a little more specific, and honestly, maybe you've just got more time. Like, let's be honest, sometimes you just have more time to really put into a reading and you want it to be more specific, but you still don't have anything specific in your mind, right, that you want to ask about. So, how have I recreated the most random spread machine possible out of just an oracle deck that utilizes pretty pictures and keywords? Any old keyword oracle deck that you have, you can use for this. So the first key to this particular situation is to randomize as much as possible, right? So we want to have specific questions, but really don't have anything in mind. So you don't want to put any pressure on yourself to try to figure it out. You want everything to be as random as humanly possible. So I cut the deck and I looked on the bottom of that cut, and whatever the number was on that card, that is how many oracle cards I then pulled out to use as my spread. So when I cut my deck, I saw the 10 of Pentacles. And that 10 of Pentacles means that I pulled 10 oracle cards. So after I had that random number, though I will say I had kind of already planned on to keep going until I got something that was a 1 through 10. But if you are good with doing, 21, or if you want to do like 11, 12, 13, 14, for the court cards, whatever you want to do for that is totally up to you. 10 is kind of, in my opinion, when you're talking about set positions in a spread, I feel like 10 is a good way to go. But you can kind of do that however you would like. I don't see any reason why you can't have a 21 card spread. Just going to take a while. Once you know how many oracle cards you're going to pull, however you typically draw cards, whether it is that you shuffle until, jumpers start coming out and you have as many as you were looking for, or you riffle shuffle and then cut the deck and then draw the top 10, whatever your normal way of drawing 10 cards is, feel free to use. But again, I was intentionally going with, I want to just do as random as possible. I don't want to feel like I had any control. I'm trying to remove myself from the creation of the spread, which I know sounds totally paranoid since I'm still the one who's doing it, but that was my goal. So what I did was use my oracle deck, which was the Soul Trees Oracle, and then I dealt out the cards into 10 piles, right? So wherever the cards sort of ended when, you were dealing out 10 piles, like almost like you were dealing a card game, right? So I had 10, just kept going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then around again and around again and around again until I ran out of cards. Then I picked up the very first pile, and I went through and pulled the 10th card. So if you don't have 10 cards in your deck, just when you get to the bottom, you just go right back to the top of that pile and keep going. And again, it was all just to really exaggerate as much as possible that it's all random, right? As soon as I randomly picked that 10, then everything to get the cards out of the Oracle deck was based on that 10. Once you have those cards pulled, and you're about to see what I have done with them in the creation of the spread, but when I pulled them out, they were not in the order that you are looking at right now. They were actually it was just totally random, right? It was just totally 10 random cards. But when you're talking about a spread and the positions in a spread, there is some conscious flow, right? When you're talking about a decision spread, usually there's a V. You could go down path A or path B. Or if you're talking about a goal setting spread, those tend to start at the bottom and work their way up. There was some kind of motion that helps sort of key your brain into this is the way we're trying to go, right? So I looked at the words and I just kind of created what vaguely looks like the correct path across the cards. I felt like birth definitely needed to be the beginning. And then you had the root chakra and the beginning, which all sort of seemed to go hand in hand right there. And then confidence. And then you had the third chakra, the solar plexus, which, you're talking about a bunch of willpower and strength of purpose and a new path emerging, and then be open, and then some mystery and awakening that felt like they kind of went together, and then some clarity at the end. So I took all that randomness, made some sense out of it. Okay. And from there, you can already see that there is some messaging coming just from the randomness of the spread that I've pulled. And clearly with where we ended, and how I place that there's a search for clarity happening here, right? So you got the beginning of something, you've got what it's grounded in, we've got some building of confidence, and then some new mystery stuff happening, like what is this? Let's be open. Okay, let's find some clarity and whatever this awakening is sort of towards the end. I was really feeling that same motion of 10. So in order to draw my tarot cards, I also did my normal shuffle, which is like an overhand mixed with some random riffling and then some more overhand. And then I did deals of 10. So when you're dealing 10, but not in two separate piles, so I did every 10th card. So you flip over card 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then when you flipped over card 10, you would put it in the first position on the spread. And that would go back to my discard pile, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then 10 would hit the next card on the spread. That is an unnecessary part of this. I was just really feeling it. I don't know, it worked well. Once I had created that number, I wanted that number to be a part of what was going on. Also, if you're someone who struggles to shuffle really well, doing random deals like that, like saying, okay, I'm going to pull out every 15th card until I get to the end. If you pick a really big number, you could still get a low total number of cards at the end. Just totally off topic. But if you're somebody who struggles with shuffling, that's a good way to still get a lot of random different energy from a reading, instead of if you're somebody who okay, this deck was just in order and I'm a really bad shuffler and I also am precious about my cards and don't want to riffle them to death. By dealing out a specific number, maybe even if it's a number that feels, important to you, you can know, okay, well, how many cards, you're talking about 78 cards. If you only want to pull one, I want the 53rd card. If you want to pull a couple, I want the 32nd card, and you end up with 3, whatever it is. But just a good way to do that. Thrown out there as a total side note. That was a complete digression of everything else I'm talking about. Sorry. Refocusing now. So every 10th card hit my spread, and then we now have a tarot card to answer each of our positions, right? So we have this spread that we have created with the soul trees oracle, and now we have the reading that we have created with the tarot of trees. In this reading, as you're sort of moving across, and I am probably going to keep this pretty vague as there was not really an intention except to share what I had sort of started doing here and not to be super vulnerable about this reading. You're talking about a birth, right? So if you're trying to answer, what started this scenario is, and then you're looking at the Six of Cups, right? So the Six of Cups is the beginning. It could be a nostalgia thing or like a memory thing, like you started thinking back. And thinking back and pulling back created the situation that we have here, which clearly is some unease, right? So that memory that you were thinking back on that may have been pleasant at the time, because when you're thinking Six of Cups, that's usually a pleasant feeling of nostalgia, but then it really messed up your foundation, right? And then the beginning of it is realizing that this good memory was really a bad memory that hurt you in some way, was a negative experience that you just hadn't connected to the negative, that was actually very bad for your roots, for your grounding, for your basis in in your confidence. And it took some accepting of some pain here to move back into following those dreams towards the star and building your confidence and moving towards those dreams. And you had another situation here where your willpower and your strength and that drive forward was really rocked, or possibly just whatever it was that you were really shooting for in that star just came to an end. Like it was over. There wasn't really anywhere else to go. And then you sort of felt like lost. But then right about that time that you had lost that momentum forward, or that momentum forward ended, a new idea arose. You had this new path emerging. This new path was something that you kind of had a spark about. There was this idea that kind of flashed and you're like, hey, what about this? And then the more you were open to spreading this idea and plotting, okay, well, how am I going to make this better? And let's be open to some new ideas about this. Okay, then we encountered some mystery and some questioning, because it seems like this is very different. It seems like this is a whole new direction. You've got to get some real new perspective, with so it's the inverted tree on the trees, tarot of trees, but the inverted tree is the Hanged Man, right? So we really need to look at this upside down and backwards. And when you're talking about how am I going to look at this mystery that I don't understand from an entirely new perspective, and if I can get that shift of view, okay, then I can hit my awakening into this Queen of Cups, right? And so how am I going to get this awakening? I want to be as empathetic and compassionate and aware of not only my own feelings, but other people's feelings and how those might all sort of be swirling around. And if I can embrace what it is that I feel and what it is that other people are feeling, that will help awaken, right, that Three of Wands, right, and the clarity being the answer to the question of, okay, to clarify all of this, and then hitting that Three of Wands, where the Two of Wands was be open to these new ideas and to these new plans, and then the Three of Wands sort of overseeing them, and the beginning of the action on those plans is pretty enlightening. There's a lot there. I will obviously be more specific in my own notes about what that means, but I think that is a really cool way to, if you can't get something like either the Spread Machine Oracle or the Deck of 1,000 Spreads that's now crazy overpriced because it's out of print, or I think there's even another one that was of that same vein. You can do that yourself with any of your keyword oracles that you have already on your shelves. So if you want to know what deck I'm talking about, I will link one below. And if you are able to support her, please do. I love her channel also. That will be linked. I just was not in a place where I could purchase that deck specifically, but I loved the idea. So I just thought I would share how you might also use that concept with some things that you already have. Thanks for watching. I always appreciate you giving me your time. And if you could please like and subscribe, I would really appreciate it. Thanks.